Buongiorno and welcome to my Way of Thinking podcast, or MWOT for short, hosted by me, Lee Greeno, here live from the Man Cave every week. Hope you're all doing well. Now, on the podcast, we do cover mental health quite a bit and everybody's journey, but just make sure you're all staying safe. We always cover mental health. I know it's difficult for everyone at the minute. Things are really shit. And it's easy for people. I was talking to someone about this today. It's easy to say stay positive. Sometimes it's not that simple of someone saying stay positive. But I think the key, and if you listen to a lot of the podcasts, the key is to talk to somebody, anybody, friends or family, and just tell them how you feel, because we're all in this together. And don't feel, like you're not and people won't understand. The best thing you can do is talk. Trust me. And if you think that someone's struggling, then just have a word with them. Just, let's just get through this together and make sure we keep in touch with everybody. So that is the lesson for today from Mr. Greeno. So there, I am a trained psychologist shrink. No, that's a joke. I'm not. But yeah, it is an important time. And we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. The vaccines are being rolled out. I went with a very good friend of mine, elderly gentleman. He had his vaccine. That was just very emotional because, we're getting there. What a brilliant country and a brilliant thing we're doing. So, yeah, stay positive. I keep saying don't say stay positive, but it keeps cropping up. Damn you, positivity. Now, the podcast is streamed on all the usual platforms, and if you do listen via Apple Podcasts, please leave a five-star rating on there. It does make a huge difference. It means that iTunes think we're really good, and we are. But no, it does make a big difference. The video of the chat's on YouTube as well, so if you want to listen and see this beautiful face on YouTube, if you just put My Way of Thinking podcast in any of the platforms, I will come up. Also, take a look at the previous podcast as well. Last week, I spoke to Dan Anderson, and that was a fascinating listen. He's got a rare form of cancer. He's been going through this while COVID and lockdown. It really puts things into perspective. So have a listen to that because it's just a cracker. But there's loads of others, so make sure you listen back through other episodes. Now, My Way I Think is all about us, amazing human beings that all have a story to tell. Those stories can vary massively. But with the guests I'll be interviewing, you'll always be able to take a little bit of advice or insight into how extraordinary we can all be. Remember, there's only 4 rules. No bullshitting. No judging. I nearly forgot my own rules then. No negativity, and 4, have fun. Now, today I'm speaking to the brilliant Amelia Zachary. Now, Amelia, right across the pond. Where was she from? Lexington-Fayette. Now, Amelia is just a lovely person, and we really get in deep about her story. She really suffers through bipolar to sort of the extreme levels, and it's really interesting how she copes with this, her coping mechanisms, how she's learned to live with it, how her family live with it. It's just a brilliant insight into someone who really suffers, because it is a terrible, terrible thing. But yeah, just a great insight, a great chat, definitely worth listening to. So make sure you do. This is me talking with the brilliant Amelia. Okay, so welcome to this special episode of My Way of Thinking. I've got Amelia Zachary on today, all the way from Lexington-Fayette, good old USA. You okay, Amelia?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so excited to be on. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So now, looking at Lexington-Fayette, you're not far from Washington, are you?
Well, we are. We are about 10 to 12 hours from them.
Oh, yeah.
A drive, yeah.
That's how good at geography I am. So obviously you've seen the recent things that have been kicking off in Washington. What's your take on that?
I am not going to comment on that. I'm sorry, but it is. It's shocking. It's scary and shocking. Yeah.
It's quite sad for Americans. You know what I mean? Just general Americans. It's just crazy time. But we will come through it. I'm sure.
We always do. It's an old country, so.
Yeah. Now, before we start talking, because obviously this is all about you, I wanted to talk about some weird and wonderful facts about Lexington-Fayette. And every time I do this, I usually get some completely wrong. How long have you been there, Amelia?
I've been here about 8 years now.
Oh, so you know it well then.
I came here with the mindset of a tourist.
Yeah.
So you know, like exactly the things that you want to know, I wanted to know before I got here.
Right.
And
so you will know. Well, you've that's it now. You've said that you're going to know these these facts, so we'll soon find out.
okay.
Right. Now, more champion thoroughbred horses are discovered at the famous Keeneland sale than anywhere else in the world. Come over and pick up a couple for yourself as gifts for friends. Yeah, right. Price ranges range from a few thousand to a few million. They sell serious thoroughbreds there, and apparently the Queen goes there as well to look at horses. Is this
Cool.
correct? Is this correct?
I would say no.
Oh, right. Why?
Why would the Queen come over here to look at horses? She'd have people doing it for her, wouldn't she?
Good point. Well, apparently, this is Google, so it's got to be true. She did come to Lexington probably years ago to look at different horses.
Cool.
Is it like a big thing over there with horses and thoroughbreds?
Horse racing is a huge deal here, and so we have all the Kentucky Horse Park, and we have the race horses. The Kentucky Derby is not far from us. Yeah. I mean, we have a race. We have one here in Lexington, and there's another one. The major one, the Kentucky Derby, runs in Louisville, which is about an hour out of here.
Yeah. Cool.
So you'll drive through Lexington and you'll see horse farms and horse training centers and all that.
Yeah. Do you go horse riding at all yourself, or do you see any other? No.
I do not. I enjoy the races.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that?
But no. The
race is just like a local thing where you just, every week there's always races going on through the summer.
There's a season for the races during the summer. Okay. And so I think it goes on about 4 weeks or so, 4 weeks or 6 weeks, something like that.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. Okay, right. There's another one. Apparently there's a local delicacy called beer cheese. It has its annual festival at Clark County. And if you prefer grits over cheese, famed food writer Jonathan Gold from MasterChef has said he could live on the grits made at Weissenberger Mill. Weisenberger Mill,
yeah.
Do you know that?
Yes, that's the brand of the grits that we could get.
Is it? What's it Is it nice?
So grits is something in between oatmeal and porridge. And rice porridge, I don't know, like it's gritty. But it's like oatmeal.
It doesn't sound nice at all.
And it's savory. So it's not like oatmeal. It's not like oatmeal where we eat it with milk and honey or sugar. You have grits with cheese and sometimes some peppers.
What's this have you ever heard of a delicacy called beer cheese?
Beer cheese, yeah.
What's that?
It's delicious. It's delicious. I honestly do not know if there's. I think there is beer in it because you always have them associated with some beer brand. But it's cheese that you heat up. You can eat it hot. You dip soft pretzels in it. Delicious.
Yeah. Wow. We're missing out here. Okay, right. Okay, that's good. Got that one right. Okay, here's another one. 95% of the world's bourbon is aged in Kentucky. There are 9 distilleries. You can go for distillery tours around Lexington and sample the bourbon. That's become very notorious from the days when it was called moonshine. And there are 5 million bourbon barrels in Kentucky. That's more than the amount of people there. Is there a lot of bourbon around Kentucky?
You can't. I think it used to be where you could only call it bourbon if it was made in Kentucky.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so they have a list of, there's a checklist of things you have to qualify to call your whiskey. It's whiskey.
Yeah.
you'd have to qualify to call yourself bourbon.
Wow. Do they make? Is that where they make Jack Daniels? Where is that?
Yeah.
Is
No,
it?
Jack Daniels is Tennessee.
Ah, that's right.
But we
That's
make
right.
Woodford Reserve and Jim Beam are
Yeah.
from here. Yeah.
Oh,
And
nice.
interesting fact, they also export the barrels that they age the bourbon in.
Yeah.
They're done with the bourbon. Those they make wine in those barrels. So we have
Wow.
bourbon barrel wine,
Wow. What's that taste like?
like bourbon.
Yeah, I'd love to go there and do some bourbon sampling. Definitely.
They have buses that take you on the tour. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, so this is the next one. This is about so bourbon. It's a big drinking place, obviously. Now this one's about whiskey. Apparently, they was the only place in America to produce medicinal whiskey during Prohibition. And there's a prescription at Buffalo Trace where you can see the actual prescription. So a doctor did medicinal whiskey for someone, well, for different people. And the guy who did it was Colonel Albert Blanton, was one of the 4 distilleries to obtain a government license to do this. And he's still honoured today with a single barrel bourbon at the distillery. Have you heard of this guy, Colonel Blanton?
I have not, but how bizarre is that? You got to get creative during the Prohibition, right?
I know, yeah. It made me smile. Can you imagine, all these gangsters shipping in all this whiskey and everything?
With a script.
Yeah, and then the police catch them and they go, "Oh, hey, mate, what's that? It's medicinal. I've got a bad back." So yeah, that was quite interesting. And then the final one, this final fact that I've got, this interests me because it's a big diverse community, apparently, in Lexington. And there was a guy called Marcius Clay, and he was so serious about ending slavery, he rigged up an anti-slavery print shop in Lexington. And he had a security system considered state of the art at the time, which was a cannon pointing at the front door. And it says it worked because his home, you can still visit his home for a tour, Whitehall, I think it's called. Is that correct? Do you know about that?
I did not know about that, but that is really cool. I am going to look that up now.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to go visit.
Yeah. What a state-of-the-art security, a cannon pointed at the front door. So you can imagine someone trying to break in. They're going to get a nasty... But this guy, Marcial Clay, was a real vibrant character. And apparently he really, he was set to try and end slavery. A real interesting character, apparently, in Lexington. So there you go. So you've learned something today, Amelia.
I have. You have done your homework.
See. So enough about Lexington. Now, whereabouts did you grow up, Amelia?
I was born and raised in Malaysia.
Oh, right. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that growing up.
So I grew up in Malaysia with 4 siblings, 4 of us, and we're a very, very tight-knit family.
Yeah.
And pretty regular childhood.
Oh, right.
I'd
Okay.
say. As regular as you can get. I was on a TV show for like most of my childhood.
Oh, weird. What was that then? Tell us about that.
It was fun. It was a little kids show where we'd travel and show other kids the things that were around Malaysia.
Yeah.
And it would air during the school holidays. And I was on that from age, I think, 5 to about 11.
Oh, right. Okay. And what was school like over there?
I don't know what would I say about school, right? Nobody liked it. We went to school, and school's it's more regimented than it is here in America.
Yeah.
We wear school uniforms, we keep our shoes white, we had a fixed schedule for everything, and there would be like 8 subjects or something that we would do every day, and so that's cool.
Yeah. And then what? And so when you finish school, how does the educational system work over there? Do you go to college or university?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a must. I think culturally, where I grew up, there's no question. You go to school, you finish school, and you qualify for college, and you make sure you go to college, and that's pretty much the kind of family I grew up in too. So yeah, I went to college, got a marketing degree when I first, and then I went again when I moved to Canada.
So
Well,
marketing, is that when you were at school, and is that what sort of you headed towards? You wanted to get involved in marketing?
yes, I did. I
What
enjoyed it, and I did work in PR and marketing for a while
and
before
what
I.
did you like about marketing? What was it?
That's just really interesting, isn't it? To create a need
Yeah.
for people to want something that they didn't know they actually wanted.
Yes.
I was fascinated
Yeah.
doing that, and so yeah, I love that part.
So did you when you were first in marketing, was that in Malaysia?
Yes,
And then what happened then after that? Were you working there for a long time? Was it a big company?
it was a small company. I think there was like 8 of us, and well, then I was overstressed and overworked. Then I met my now husband.
Oh, right.
I
Okay.
met him, and he was working in Japan. So he invited me to come over to Japan and check out Japan. So I did that for a while. And I
How
was
did
teaching.
you meet him how did you meet him over in Japan?
It's a long story. So, well, mutual friends.
Oh,
He worked with my best friend's husband, who are based in America.
yeah.
So when he came over for a holiday, she connected us, and so the rest is history.
Wow. That Malaysia and then somewhere Japan, I would guess the culture is completely different. Is that right?
Completely different. I don't think there's any culture in the world that's like Japanese culture.
Yeah.
It was so cool, very, very different. I think because they were a closed country for a very long time. And then when they opened up, they have this Western influences, and they are a very uniformed,
Yeah.
from my observation, they are very uniformed society. But then individualization, like being an individual, is so important to them, and they
Yeah.
do all these bizarre things like cosplay and all this sort of stuff. So that was really cool to watch and observe.
I think it's quite stressful over there though, isn't it? I think they work very hard
Yes.
over
Oh,
there.
it's a pride of the women that their husbands work late.
Yeah.
If your husband comes home early, then he's either not important or he's lazy. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, that'd be no good for me then.
you work easy hours then.
Well, I don't work particularly long hours.
Yeah.
But I always, so the thing with me is because I'm a creator, I'm always doing other things. If I'm not at work, then I'm always doing things anyway. But when I was younger, I worked quite a lot. I was in a managerial role, did a lot of hours. And it just got to a point where I thought, if you're just working, what is life? So I decided to take a step back and sort of have more of spend more time on my interest, because I think, yeah, it's great working long hours, but if you can't enjoy your life, what good is it?
Yeah.
So tell us. So then, did you say you moved to Canada?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
My
so tell us
husband.
about that move then, because you just said you got family in Malaysia, so that must have been quite difficult.
That was tough. I left my whole family behind, but so I've been away from home for 11 years this year.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty new for like people who are immigrants, but like it's still a lot. It's been a long time. And
And what?
so we moved.
Go
Sorry,
on.
go ahead.
Go on. Yeah, it's
Oh,
fine. Go on.
we moved to Canada because my husband got dispatched to Canada. He's based in America, but then he was dispatched to Japan and then dispatched to Canada. And so we were in Canada for a while. And I went back to school because when I was in Japan, I was teaching children English. And that was the best thing. It was the
Yeah.
best job I ever had.
Yeah.
It was fun and rewarding. And so I went back to school in Canada
Yeah.
to try and get a degree to work with. I got a degree in human ecology to try and work with children.
Wow. So I bet that was quite obviously different leaving Malaysia.
Yeah,
But like you say, teaching another culture in another country. Yeah, I bet that was quite exciting.
very exciting. It was fun, like to see, like just to watch the children, and you learn a lot about their culture from watching the children and
Yeah.
things they say and do and behave. Yeah.
And then, so you were in Canada and then you moved to America.
Yes, I did.
And what was the reason for moving to America?
My husband returning home to his home base.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we moved back here and we got married here.
Oh, nice. So, what did your husband do?
He works for a car manufacturing company.
Right. Okay. So it's a good job then.
Yes.
Oh, good, good, good.
I'll say it's a good job. I've been comfortable.
That's good. That's good. So, and obviously, so all this time you've obviously, when I've gone through your profile, that you've suffered with, is it bipolar disorder that you've suffered with?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, Amelia, because obviously it's difficult. Bipolar disorder is I haven't got it, but I know people have had it. And it's quite a difficult thing to explain to people or live with. And and also, as well as that, you're moving around to different countries. So tell us a bit about bipolar disorder.
So bipolar disorder, as I've experienced it, is a polarity of two ends. Being, I have bipolar disorder too, where it's manifests itself in a hypomanic state, which is a form of mania, a lower level form of mania, but also with mixed with depression. And
Right.
then I have a major depression. It's defined by its major depressive states.
Yeah.
So I go into hypomanic where I'm really excited and I'm life of the party. People love having me around if I'm manic. I'm super creative. I'm super hyper focused. I'm impulsive and spontaneous. So everything fun and wonderful, but to the extreme, which I think if a logical mind will look at it is something that is not healthy. And then I go into depressive states where I'm having suicidal ideation or feelings of worthlessness and deep, deep grief, which has no true reason. So it's very difficult to talk about, to explain depression because people think that you can just snap out of it. You're just feeling sad, life isn't bad, life is wonderful, everything's fine. But it isn't so because there isn't a real reason. In my experience, what I'm experiencing is a mix of environmental environmental elements and the biological elements. So the environmental elements I can control as much as I can. The biological part of it, I can't really do much about the chemical imbalance. And so when it happens, and it's not something I can snap out of without treatment.
And when did you realize this was something you were suffering with?
I realized that only when I was with my husband, when we started dating. And then that was the only time I was in a real relationship where someone was actually watching me, right? And he was saying things that this is not normal, this is not okay, like we need to get help. And so he helped me get help. And so that's about 10 years ago I got my diagnosis.
That's
And then
that's amazing, isn't it? Because a lot of people don't get diagnosed with things like bipolar and things like that because the simple fact is they're living with it and they don't realize. And it takes someone usually who loves them or is one of their family or someone to say, hold on a sec, this doesn't seem right. Because I suppose you could almost, if it's like someone saying there's something wrong with you. And
yeah,
you don't want to admit that, do you? You don't
and
want to
that's
say.
that's the whole stigma, and it's a taboo to talk about mental illness because you're a nutter, and so nobody wants to be called that, and nobody wants to be ostracized for having an illness, really.
Yeah.
So that's why I love that we're having this conversation, so we can normalize mental illness. It's just like having any other medical condition.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also this day and age, there's a lot more talk about it, which is great. People recognise it a lot more. How did it? Just give us an idea of how it could affect you on a day-to-day basis sometimes.
So if I'm manic, I'm highly anxious. I'm highly, highly anxious, and that becomes a problem because I can't function. I'm paralyzed because I'm too anxious. Everything overwhelms me. It's too difficult to do the normal day-to-day stuff. And we've gone into this wonderful flow in things in my house with my husband and my children. I haven't done dishes in 10 years because that was one of those
awesome.
things. That is awesome. One of my perks, right? So, but like things like that, but my family has to go around my illness. And so my husband does the dishes, so I don't have to be overwhelmed when I wake up in the morning. I don't have dishes in the sink, or he gets breakfast for the children. During my episodes, he has to pick up and take up all those things that I would do usually. Baths and bedtime and breakfast and getting ready for school. So that's something that we've worked out, that my husband knows that if I'm in an episode, then he has to step in and he does all this stuff. And it's paralyzing. That's what it is. Whether I'm in a manic state or a depressive state, I'm paralyzed. Or I get super, super creative or hyper-focused onto something. I had an example I was going to show you.
Yeah.
So several years ago, almost 10 years ago, I was manic.
Yeah.
And hypomanic. And then I was just looking at this picture and I said, like, I'd like to draw. And I picked up a pencil.
Wow.
And that was my first ever drawing.
Wow.
And I couldn't put my pencil down. I could not stop. I kept drawing and I just couldn't stop drawing that one picture for like hours. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep for days, actually.
Yeah.
Here's another one.
Wow. That's awesome.
But today, I tried to, lately I thought I want to get back into drawing. I picked up a pencil and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't. In my manic state and my stable state, the things I can see and the things I can do is absolutely different. And it's a difficult way to be because it's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's coming. I don't know how long it's going to stay. If it comes in that form, like, that's pretty good. Like, I take that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't all the time. Most days it's just difficult to do things, simple things. Or I have social anxiety. I have anxiety going to a party or going to meet my children's teachers or something. And I have medication for that. But I would have anxiety over taking the anxiety medication. Like, what if I take this and then I'm just like a walking hollow person and I'm not able to have real conversations, or I'm not able to be there, or what if I'm not present, or my children's birthday parties, I get anxious. Yeah. And then I think to myself, if I take my medication, then I won't be present, I won't be here, I won't be able to like enjoy this moment with my children. And so those kind of things are things that are very invisible. People don't see those things, right? Because what they see is a mother who's got her shit together. I do all this stuff. I do all the things. I show up for my children, but what's going on inside, no one sees.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have that. I mean, a lot of people who have any kind of mental illness are going through that. You look like you're functioning, therefore you should be well.
Yeah.
And it's not the case.
Yeah, it's true. And do you think now you are better equipped to deal with it? So tomorrow, if you wake up, your husband will know, you'll know, you're more, because you've been living with it for so long now, you can deal with it a lot better.
Yes. not just that I'm living with it for so long, it's more that I've been in treatment for so long.
Mm.
I've been in treatment, and now I do CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I do drug treatment, and so drug therapy. And so I have a combination of these things and my lifestyle changes, trying to create that environment that is balanced. And so I think by doing all these things together, I'm more equipped now than I ever was when I was younger, not understanding what was going on.
You say cognitive behavior. Tell us a bit about that. What's that?
So cognitive behavioral therapy is basically training your mind to affect your behavior. So let's say, for example, for me, so one of the tools in CBT is identifying thinking errors and reframing. So sometimes somebody says, "Oh, you look great today." It's so simple, right? All I have to say is "thank you" and feel good that somebody noticed that I look great today. But in my mind, it goes like, "Oh, of course they're saying that. They're not saying that. They have to say, is there something wrong with it?" Oops, sorry.
What's
I'm so
happened?
sorry. That's just the kid's alarm. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. I can edit it out.
So yeah, like somebody says, "Oh, you look great today," and all I have to say is "thank you" and feel great about somebody noticing how good I look. But in my mind, there's this whole thought process of like, "Oh, of course they have to say that," or "Oh, is there something wrong with the way I look? Is that why they said that?" And then I'm going around in circles in my head, having anxiety over someone's compliment. And then using CBT, my CBT mind comes out and say, "No, you're minimizing. There's a thinking error. You're minimizing. So reframe. They said what they said because they said it, because they felt it, or I'll never know because there's never a way for me to know whatever anyone else is actually thinking anyway, despite whatever they say, right?"
Yeah.
So that's kind of an example of CBT, trying to like recognize the thinking errors and then reframing him or redirecting the thoughts.
I mean, it's crazy, really, when you think about it, because, on this show, we've talked about mental health with people and what's going on in your conscious and your unconscious. You can't, sometimes you can't control it. It's difficult enough for, like me thinking about different things and trying to remember things. So what it must be like for you must be an absolute nightmare, because you've not only got the day-to-day things, now you've got another layer, you know what I mean, where you're thinking about what you're thinking. So if someone says a comment to you, and I would just take it, now you're thinking, well, why have they said that? And then that brings the anxiety in.
Exactly. And this is a point where I thought we should talk about also, that a lot of people think that when people have bipolar and like they have things to do, that you should just get up and it's as simple as doing this, this, and this. If only you would do these things, then you would live a life like ours, or you would have the answers to your problems. But it's not as easy as that. A lot of times I'm overwhelmed, and I've been blessed and I've been lucky that I've had a husband who is understanding and who's learned and gone through the process with me. And so he understands how a simple thing as getting up and brushing your teeth can be the goal of the day. If I wake up, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, okay, if I take a shower today, that would be good. Or if I just brush my teeth, I just get out of bed and brush my teeth, and then I can get back into bed, but I'll do one thing. It's really overwhelming, and people need to understand things that they don't understand. Understand that there are things that you won't understand, because if you're not going through it, then you don't understand it. And be okay with that, and be okay with helping unconditionally.
Yeah, I think it's awareness is a lot better than it's ever been, but still, it's like you say, there are people out there that are fortunate enough to have never gone through it or have it, and it's easy to say, you shouldn't be feeling like that. You just need to be positive. But what people need to realize is it's a chemical imbalance. You know, it's something in your mind. It's a disease, isn't it? It's something that you can't just cure and click your. Well, it's not even a disease, because a disease, I suppose, you can cure.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
mind, yeah, the mind is a funny thing, and I think awareness is definitely better. But I think there'll always be certain people that just think, you should just get out of bed and do something and go for a walk. I mean, we talk about mental health on here, and we talk about exercise, which is a really good thing, and can help. But I think where you are, because you're at the extreme end of with your bipolar, it's a lot. It's a lot more of a complex thing when you get to sort of where you are is a real difficult place sometimes.
I would say like where I am now is a good place, right? Compared to where I was before. Before I was standing on bars and having a good time and I was manic, but now I am aware, but it still hasn't changed the exhaustion level of like having to process these things. Like I told you, a simple thing as a compliment becomes a huge process. So multiply that by all the things that you have to go through in a day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And how
it can sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
I'll say it can be debilitating. It can be, and it has been, and I'm not to say that it won't be again, but with treatment and with support of the people around me, I think I've been able to manage it well.
And do you think the support of, well, obviously your husband is a rock, and there's obviously been a massive thing, but how about the healthcare professionals and things like that? How have they been?
It has been difficult. I am now with my therapist that I love. I've been with him for about 6 years now, and it took 8 doctors to get there. Since I got to America, it took about six to 8 doctors before I got to him.
Yeah.
So and I always keep in my mind that you have to find somebody that fits. Somebody I respected, somebody I liked, somebody I believed, I trusted, somebody who was really in sync with you, right? That's the challenge. But I never gave up because of something one of my first therapists told me. He told me that if your car had a timing belt that was going off and you hear the sound in your car, right? The squealing, you go to the first mechanic and then you try to get it fixed and it's not fixed. You take the car and just keep driving.
Yeah.
Like, no, you keep going till you find a mechanic that actually fixes the problem, right? Yeah. So same thing as the therapist. Like, if it's not going well, keep going, keep looking till you find somebody that works.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that sort of is in line with also making sure you talk about it, because again, that's what a lot of people say. You must talk. You must talk to someone and get professional help, which is exactly what you've done. And not giving up is a brilliant tip. Yes. Because you've learned you've got to live with it, but you are going to try and beat it the best you can and deal with it, which is so important, isn't it?
And talking to your friends is not talk therapy. It's not the same thing. People think if I have someone to talk to, if I can just like release all of this to someone, if I can vent, is venting and talk therapy are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Because in therapy, they are trained professionals. They have the tools, and they have, like, I'm saying CBT is one of it, but there are like millions of other different kinds of tools that I use CBT because that's what resonated best with me. So it might not with everybody, but a trained professional will know what works for you. And so I always say that talking to your girlfriends is not the same as going to therapy.
Yeah, definitely. And what would that have been like if you were back in Malaysia? Would you have got the same kind of medical care over there, do you think?
I do not believe I would have, because of the stigma.
Yeah.
And I did not, I had a traumatic experience happen to me, and I didn't even have anywhere to go because I was kind of put into a box because of the stigma.
Yeah.
So I think things are changing. Just like I won't dare to say like what it is like right now, but when I was there, it wasn't as easy to find a therapist or find someone to talk to.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a thing that we did culturally.
Yeah. Which makes you realise how lucky we are. I mean, here in the UK, you know, mental health and help and therapy is very good. Same way as, you know, no doubt it is over there in America. But like you say, in other countries, some countries still don't even recognise it, which is really sad, isn't it? Really.
It's terrible. WHO stats show that 1 in 5 people in the world have some form of mental illness. And so that's a lot of people.
Mm.
And to think that, like, you know, UK and US population aside, how many people are suffering out there without, I don't know how many of them are actually getting help, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talk, and I think it's good when you see celebrities talking about it as well, which brings awareness because we're talking about it and it'll be on the podcast and people will listen. But to have a massive, wide audience,
Yeah.
I know we had over here some of the royal family talked about it, which was great. But when you see real people like the boxer Tyson Fury, have you heard of
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
You know, he's a great spokesperson for mental health. And the reason why it's so good seeing him is not just because yeah, he's a fantastic boxer, but it's because people saw it on their television of where he's been and where he's come to. And that is such a massive thing for people to see, to visualize and hear him talking. And I think that's a great help. And I think we've got a lot more people that are coming out now. I mean, him himself says, you know, years ago, his family would just say, chin up and get on with it, you know. So
Yeah.
more people like that and like yourself that can open up and say, you know, I have got a problem and this is what I'm doing to deal with it is such a fantastic thing, isn't it?
I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that. I want to be part of the conversation that normalizes mental illness. And like this was so wonderful that you would have me and that you would have this topic on your show.
Of course, yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
You know, it's a massively important thing. Now, tell me, obviously, you've got your daughter, isn't it? 6-year-old daughter. Is it daughter?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, when you had your daughter, that, you know, we talk about anxiety and what was that like going through pregnancy and because
So
you must have been worried.
funny enough, on my first pregnancy, I went off my meds because I wanted to have a med-free pregnancy and nursing, and something in the hormones balanced out, and I was good. I was really, really
You got
good.
2 children, sorry.
Yes, I have two,
How old?
6 and 4.
Oh, right, okay.
But when I had the 4-year-old, that was a different story altogether.
Yeah.
That was torture
Oh,
because my mind, like, I was depressed and I was manic and then there's this beautiful place that's we call the in between, where I'm hypomanic and depressed at the same time, like carrying both ends at the same time. That's mental torture. And so, well, but then, like, and then there are all these pressures they put on mothers. Don't take meds, don't do this and don't do that. And so I didn't want to give up nursing. So I was off my meds the whole time I was pregnant with my second as well. And then I had her, and then my depression was terrible.
oh God.
But then I didn't want to give up nursing because everyone said that your kid be smart if she's nursed, the kid will be healthy if she's nursed, and all these things, like, they have to be nursed. And inside I was suffering.
Yeah.
I was suffering with the depression, but, like, all that mattered to me was giving boob to the baby,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, just to make sure that she's being breastfed. And so after a few months of that, we decided that, like, it was not worth it, and it's more important that I was present as a mother and healthy as a mother in my mind
Yeah.
than it was to just feed the baby from my breast.
Oh, it winds me up because these people that are saying that to you, have they been through what you've been through? Have they we can all get on our high horse and say, you should do this, you should do that. But what good? I can't stand people like that. It really pisses me off.
But it's the society, isn't it, around motherhood?
And what we're on about now is the whole of society is changing.
Yes.
Stupid things like that, saying you have to do this and you have to do that.
Yeah.
Your children are going to be amazing, and you don't have to bloody nurse it. What good would that have been if you're not here now, but you nursed your kids?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just
exactly
crazy.
So I think a lot of mothers suffer from postpartum depression, and that's what I had also on top of my bipolar. Yeah. And so a lot of us suffer in silence because we want to be the best mom. There's nothing more important to me than my children. Yeah. I will not do anything that will risk them, right? Cool. And then there's this society that's teaching us or imposing all these values that are not really functional or beneficial.
Yeah.
So
it's hard. When we had our first child, my son, my wife went through, parental. She had, a hard time. It was a hard pregnancy, and but we didn't really realise. And because the thing is, when you've had a kid, it knocks everything around in your body, in the relationship. Is a big thing. So you think it's going to be difficult, and it's knowing the difference between having a baby and being difficult, and something not quite right. Postnatal depression. Yeah. And luckily, thank God, we worked it out and worked out that's what it was. But if we hadn't of, we could have split up. That could have caused a massive issue.
Yeah.
And it's not knowing, isn't it? It's raising awareness.
It's exactly what we were talking about, having awareness and like knowing that there is such a thing, so you could look into it.
Yeah.
If you didn't look into it, then it'd just be something that you go through thinking that that's the personality change because you had a baby or whatever that was.
Because she just hates me.
Yeah. She changed her mind.
But so now you've got 2 children. What's that like? Because they're young children, and God, children are amazing, but they're hard work. What's that like?
My children are the most amazing children that ever lived.
Yeah.
We talk about how terrible this illness is and how it takes over my life and it takes over everything and how my family has to go around my illness. But at the same time, it has developed these 2 individuals who are strong, who are empathetic, who are kind, who are generous with their love. And I think that is a lesson that they're getting out of this that's so difficult to teach.
Yeah.
And so they are like, when I'm depressed, or they're like, my daughter came up to me and says, why are you crying? Are you crying from nowhere again? Oh. I said, yes. And then she says like, oh, I'm going to make lunch. She'll make a lunch and she'll make lunch for her sister. I'm going to make lunch. Would you like some? She'll make a sandwich or something and bring me up sandwich. And for a 6-year-old, and she's been doing that since she was like 4.
Wow.
So, those kind of things are a blessing, I think, in times where this is difficult. I used to blame myself and feel really guilty about it. I'm a terrible mother. These are the things that my children have to do because I'm sick and I hate being sick. I don't want to be sick, but I am. And my children are better off without me, or my husband is better off without me. These are the thoughts that come to my mind. And then you look at what they're doing, and I realize that this is just the way we are. This is the way we live. This is our family and not anybody else's, right? It doesn't matter the standards out there, what they are doing out there. But this is how our family functions, and my children are beautiful for it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's easy to feel guilty when we, when we do something wrong, or, we're not perfect parents. But at the end of the day, you love your kids, you love them. And I definitely think they'll grow up stronger for it. They'll have, who wants to be a kid growing up where they've got everything they need? And, we need that resilience,
Also, we're teaching them that it's okay to be ill. it is okay to take a mental health day, or if you're not feeling good, it is okay to take a step back. I think that's such an important lesson that I was not taught that. I was taught you push through, chin up, push through. You have things to do, you have to do them. But I think from this, my children learn, and they learn emotional vocabulary. They're able to be in touch with their feelings, because I understand now how important that is, to be able to express what I'm feeling, so that somebody else could have helped me. I didn't understand that before, but when I understood it, that's when I got help.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so important that my children can tell me exactly how I feel. I don't want to do that right now, because in my heart, it feels really heavy for me to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway, because you said I have to do it. But just know that I'm not happy doing it.
Yeah. And the thing is, similar over here in the UK, I suppose it goes back to World War II and things like that, where we didn't have time to look at mental health because we were all fighting a war, you know. So that's our great grandparents and their grandparents, and they were just trying to find food. So back then it was a lot different, and that's come through generations, which I can understand. Where, you know, you have the stiff upper lip, but now it's got to a point now where we have to understand this, because back then people have always suffered with mental health. People have always had disabilities and problems. And I think we're in a great place at the minute where we can all understand this. We get the help we need. We can talk about it. So it's a great place. I know we have a lot of COVID and like I said to you about the problems in Washington, and we have problems over here, but really, if you sit back and think, you think we are in a good time and space where, you know, it's great for kids growing up, and people like you and me, and being able to chat and talk about these kind of things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a different time.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you said, I read somewhere, you said your child, 6-year-old's very gifted. Is that just in general, or does she have like a
She has
skill?
she's been tested. She has a IQ, off the charts IQ.
Yeah, wow.
She's profoundly gifted. She has 3 standard deviations from the mean, which means like she's in the very small percentage of children that can do what she can do.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand it at first. I thought it was like, oh, so she's smart. And the doctor was very cautionary. Don't worry, we will get through this together. And I thought, what is he on about? Like, what? And then I realized the challenges. There are a lot of challenges with somebody she's 6, but her mind is so far beyond her age, but her emotions are still that of a 6-year-old. And so we have this struggle of trying to remind ourselves, when she talks and she behaves and she talks back, she's only 6.
Yeah.
There's this big feeling she hasn't learned how to reel in yet. She doesn't know how to harness. And so there are a lot of challenges with parenting a gifted child.
How did you find out about that?
She was, I think, 16 months old, and she was going Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And so,
Wow.
oh, okay. And then she would be able to tell you, I have a video of it, and she used to tell me, the sun is made of helium and hydrogen gases. The sun is not a planet, it is a star. And she'll give us all these facts and figures of everything to do with astronomy. And then it was dinosaurs. And then it was airplanes. And then it was all these other things. And then we had no benchmark because she's our first child. So we just thought, oh, how cool. She likes all this stuff. Like, we don't have to watch Mickey Mouse. We don't have to watch Mickey Mouse or Barney on repeat. Like, so, well, then we had issues. We had some issues with her, and then we saw a doctor and found out that she's actually gifted. There aren't any issues.
Wow, what a beautiful thing.
It is.
Oh, that is going to be amazing watching her grow up. And you're going to be thinking all the things you're going to be thinking, what's she going to become? What's she going to do?
She already has an environmental campaign.
6 years old.
She was speaking to a group of industry stakeholders on waste plastic when she was age 4.
God.
She gave a speech. And so like, and she's given several speeches at universities.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm very proud, as to say the least.
See, all these things that you talk about, all these problems and issues and things going on, always good comes from it somewhere, you know?
Yeah, it does. And like, I'm more aware. The illness is the illness, but because of it, I'm more aware and I'm more appreciative, and I have more gratitude for all the things that she can do and that she is doing. And I think I live a different life than I did before I understood I was ill.
Yeah, well, that's a brilliant journey, because, you know, imagine if you were still in that dark place and you didn't quite understand, you know, that would be the worst thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you've gone through your mental barriers and problems. If someone is feeling a bit down and not quite sure where they are or what they're suffering it with, what sort of advice could you give them, Amelia?
I think, first of all, hold on, because it will pass. It always passes. Just hold on. And then when you're in a good place, set yourself up for when you go down again. You know, get the help you need, get treatment. I'm all for treatment.
Yeah.
I think that it would have been impossible for me to live the life that I'm living without treatment. And I think that that's so important. And outside of that, accept help. It's okay. It is okay to get some help. It is okay to well, of course, choose the person you seek help from. There is somebody. We always think there's nobody. Well, choose the best one of the lot. Just look at the top 5 people that you could ask help from and just ask the top one. Because even as we convince ourselves that I can't ask for help, like that person's not going to help me, or they're not going to care, but if you look deep down, I'm sure you can find, of the worst, even of the worst, the best of the worst is going to probably try and help you. And at least like that in itself gave me space to process what I was going through too, not just by receiving the help, but also by going through the process of seeking help.
Yeah, that's good advice. And it's like you say, these healthcare professionals, that's what they've been training for years. So, of course, they want to help people just like you. So, you know, when you're looking through therapists, you know, ask for the best. Look at different, like you said, you saw a few until you found the one that was right for you. So I think that's an important thing as well, because if people go for help, they meet a therapist and it doesn't work out, the worst thing they can do is then step back and think it's not going to work. Stick at it. It's like you said, do not give in and keep going, and you will get to the right place.
Yes, just like I said.
Now, I always ask my guests for a favorite. It can be a book, a film, TV show, food, whatever, just that we can all access. Have you thought of a favorite for today?
So I thought of 2 things.
Ooh.
My favorite book is this one, Where'd You Go, Bernadette?
All right, I haven't seen that before. Tell us about that then.
Oh, they made a movie out of it too.
Oh, did they?
They did. And it's a hilarious story of this woman who really just gets tired of her life and then fucks off to Antarctica.
As you do.
And she ends up in Antarctica, and this whole story, the struggle of a child and her and everything. But it's really funny, and I love that. Dry kind of funny, but I love it. So that's my favorite book, Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And music, I am currently obsessed with Julie Fowlis. She's a Celtic singer.
Oh, okay.
And I only like the stuff where she sings in Gaelic. Yeah. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Gaelic. Gaelic. Yeah.
And her name's what? Julie
Fowlis.
Oh, I've never heard of that. I'll have to have a look for her.
She's Scottish.
Yeah.
And I love her music, and I listen to her music to write.
Yeah. And so you talk about writing. What sort of things you've been writing, Amelia?
So I am in the process of writing I am writing my memoir, and it will be a story about my struggles and pain with post-trauma processing, the trauma itself, and bipolar, and my life with bipolar.
Yeah.
So that's in the books. I'm writing it, and for a taste of like my life and my writing, I have a website. I have a blog, Amelia
Oh,
Zachary, ameliazachary.com.
right. Okay. I'll have a look at that. I don't think you've got that link on Matchmaker. I don't think you've put that link on there
Probably not.
because I was having a look, but I'll have a look at that. So it's just Amelia, put your name in .com.
Yes, yes, and spell my last name right.
Well,
Because
what I'll do when I
my
put the podcast up, I'll put a link in the show notes anyway, so
thank you.
people can look at it. But that
Yeah,
sounds brilliant. So you're writing a book. How far are you through?
I've written the draft, so now it's being edited.
Oh, have you? So you finished it then?
I did.
How did that feel? I
So
bet that was quite therapeutic, wasn't it?
it was very therapeutic, and I wrote about things. It was funny how the things that I thought were uncomfortable weren't the ones that were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There were the things that I just didn't talk about were the ones that were really uncomfortable to write about.
Yeah. That's
And
strange.
there was mostly relationships.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
I'm trying to write a book. I'm sort of halfway through, but because I have other things that I'm doing, I find it very
Yeah.
difficult. You need to just focus, don't you? And
Yeah.
just get into that routine. I think once you get into a routine of doing it.
I don't have a routine per se. It comes to me, I'll be doing something and
Yeah.
then I feel like it comes to me and I walk around with my notebook and I write it down, and then I sit down and write. I find time whenever I feel like the huge urge to let it out, and it comes out. And Julie Fowlis helps too.
Yeah.
I listen to her, and then people meditate sometimes when they write. I guess like Celtic music is my meditation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. What when you open it will come out?
I'm hoping sometime this year.
Oh, well, make sure you send a link as soon as you know about. Well, what we'll do when it comes out, if you give me a shout, we'll do another podcast and then we'll have a talk about it.
Ooh, I would love that. I would
Yeah,
love that so much.
that'll be great. Well, look, if people want to get in touch, then it's so Amelia Zachary, the blog
Yeah. AmeliaZachary.com.
.com, and whereabouts are you on Instagram and Twitter?
Yes, Brown Girl Crazy World on Instagram.
Brown Girl Crazy World.
And I have a Facebook page, Amelia Zachary.
Brown Girl Crazy World. Right, cool, okay. Well, look, it's been an absolute joy for you to come on, Amelia. I've really enjoyed our chat, and I'm just so glad you came on and you were so honest about things, which is great. So make sure you stay in touch. And
Thank you, I will.
then, like I say, once I get the podcast up, it'll probably be in a couple of weeks. Then I'll put all the links and I'll send them all over to you.
Okay.
Okay, you take care and look after yourself.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Bye, Amelia.
Bye.
So that's it. Massive thanks again to Amelia for joining me today, and also you for listening. Make sure you follow the podcast, because coming up over the next months, there are some more extraordinary interviews. The podcast will be streaming on the usual platforms, including iTunes and Spotify. So please leave a rating on there and subscribe. To keep up to date, we're on social media: Facebook, which is My Way of Thinking Podcast; Instagram, which is MWOT Podcast; and Twitter, My Way of Thinking, with a 3 on the end instead of a G. Now, every week I also put the conversation on YouTube, so you can see this beautiful beard growing. Just put My Way of Thinking Podcast in and we'll come up there. And finally, if you do want to get in touch or you think you may be a great guest, email me, mawatpodcast@aol.com. Come on the show. Don't be scared. Until next time, God bless. Take care. Speak soon.